Hello and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we are releasing a special bonus episode. This is an extended version of an interview that I gave on the Zen Sammich podcast with Mark Reed. Now, you may remember Mark Reed on our show if you're a regular listener. We interviewed him on episode number 35. If you haven't heard it already, I definitely recommend that you check it out. Mark is such a great dude. He's got a really great message, and I was really fortunate to be actually the first person that he ever interviewed on his podcast. His podcast now has over 25 episodes. It's a great show. I highly recommend that you go over there. Make sure you subscribe and leave him a rating and review. It really helps out the podcasters, and I really think you're going to enjoy his show and enjoy his content. Today for this interview, we will be talking about mindfulness and purpose and how the nutrition and exercise portion of that fits in to strengthen the mind-body connection. So it was a really fun interview. I had a really great time being on his show. Again, this is the extended version of that interview, so also hope you enjoy it here and make sure you go check out his work. Without further ado, here is my episode on the Zen Sammich podcast.
Hey, here we are. You're listening to episode 9 of the Zen Sammich podcast. I am super excited today because we are launching our first interview of what I hope to be, at least initially, a once-a-week thing. My guest today, my very first guest, Casey, you'll always be my first. I am stoked about this. You're going to hear why in a moment. My first guest is Casey Ryan Ruff. He and his wife, Bethany, own Boundless Body in South Jordan, Utah. And you can find out more about that at myboundlessbody.com. They're personal trainers. It's a Pilates studio. They offer nutrition coaching as well, which I have some questions about. He's also a podcaster. His show is called Boundless Body Radio. It's very motivational stuff. I highly recommend it. I listened to the latest episode that Casey just dropped last night with the Dutch soccer coach of the American Samoa team. Dude, I want that guy to be my coach.
He's so
Casey.
Cool. He is so cool.
Yeah, that dude is awesome.
Awesome.
Casey, he's had some big names on the show. You got to check it out, Boundless Body Radio. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Casey Ruff. Dude, it is great to speak with you again.
Thank you so very much. It's an absolute honor to speak to you as well. It was great to interview you the other day, and you had a lot of really good points and great things for our listeners. We're excited for that one to launch as well.
Well, one reason I wanted to do an interview with you, Casey, is that you have an infectious energy about you. You immediately come across as a positive-minded person, ambitious, but not in an annoying way. Like, some people are overly ambitious and it's kind of an obnoxious thing. Not you. You have this sort of like energy that I'm immediately pulling for you, whether it's in business or your podcast or just, I want you to be happy in life. Like I'm like already on your team just after talking to you for a few minutes.
Wow. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, why is that? What's the source? What's the source of your positive energy?
That's a really good question. I've always tended to be an optimistic person, but I think when my life hit what I would consider like a bottom, and I had to kind of find a new way and kind of I guess be more conscious was when I really started to let go of things in the past, and I think that really helped me to carry a more positive energy forward, which is great in the type of work that I do, working with people one-on-one. I have to be alert and awake and remember what their programming is and remember what their kid did in soccer last week. And so you have to kind of bring that to the table and make sure that your energy always stays high. The other thing I would say helps give me that energy is learning proper nutrition. You've already mentioned kind of the nutrition coaching and learning how to fuel the body properly just opens up endless amounts of energy. And that is so valuable to me that it makes it really easy to stay on track and on a plan.
That's awesome. Actually, I will jump to that. I wanted to talk to you about three things today, but since you mentioned the nutritional thing, I did notice that and if I'm wrong about this, correct me, but that you are a proponent, an advocate of a low carb lifestyle, right?
Yes, correct.
Me
Go
too.
ahead. Oh, good. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually, I lost 70 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, my worst. Now, I'm not a big guy, and my high school weight was around 155, and I got up. I was living in Florida, and just not living the healthiest of lifestyles, and I got up to 225. Now that's the
Wow.
biggest. Yeah, that's the biggest I ever got, and that was 225 fat, man, not muscle, and it was bad, and self-esteem was low and all that. So I just it snapped. I said I'm doing this. So I did the no carb thing, and I basically followed a couple of simple rules. I cut out the sugar, no carbs. I mean, it's impossible to go no carbs. You'll find carbs in something somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I kept it less than 20 grams a day.
Wow.
And I did this is supposed to be your interview. I'm sitting here talking.
Dude,
but,
preach. This is beautiful. Trust me.
But I did non-aerobic exercise all day. I was working I've been a lawyer and a professor, but this was a downtime. I was working in a restaurant, but I was wearing a mileage tracker, and I was walking like 7 miles a day around that restaurant, and just doing that non-aerobic exercise. My heart rate wasn't going up, and eating just protein and fat, and I cut out alcohol altogether. I just, because alcohol will slow your metabolism down and, and make you make bad decisions about food. So I just cut it out. No sugar, no alcohol, no booze, walking around all day. And it was crazy, dude. Like 6 months, I dropped, I think it was that quickly. I dropped 70 pounds. I went from 225 to 155. I had sustained energy all day.
Wow.
Like I didn't have a carb crash. I didn't have a heavy carb breakfast and then I want to take a nap. So anyway, yeah, tell me about it. This is your show. Why are you an advocate of this low carb lifestyle?
Take my job. You've got my job. That was so well said. The advice that we've been given for so many years, you need to control your calories, you need to do a lot of cardio, you need to move more, and you need to eat less, is flawed.
Yep.
And it doesn't work, and it ubiquitously doesn't work for everybody. Yet, what we do in the health industry is we tell people, you're not doing it well enough. And it's your fault, and you need to go home and eat even less calories, and you need to work out even more. And it doesn't work. The carbohydrates are really good at trapping fat, storing fat inside of our bodies so that we continually add more and more fat, more stored body fat. And you mentioned the carb crashes. When we eat the carbohydrates, we release a hormone called insulin, and that's a hormone that tells our fat cells to open up. It does a lot of things, but it tells our fat cells to open up and store extra energy. And insulin is really good at what it does. And on the back end of all the storage, it takes all the sugar out of your blood. So now you feel really crummy. You get hangry. You can't focus. You can't concentrate. It makes not eating very difficult because you're walking around hungry all the time, and you need to eat meals and snacks all the time. When you take the carbohydrates and greatly reduce them in overall quantity, but also in frequency, meaning maybe you're eating some carbohydrates, but it's only one time a day, things like that. And you're focusing more on eating protein and fat the way nature intended to full satiety, meaning you eat until you are very, very full. Your body has no choice but to lower that hormone insulin, which then opens up fat stores and frees up the fat so that you can burn that as your fuel. And then the hunger reduces, your energy improves, your mental clarity improves. You can lose weight extremely easily in the form of fat.
Yep.
And you're just not that hungry anymore. I haven't eaten in 22 hours. I haven't even really thought about food. I've been busy, and I like to fast, and it's really easy for me since I'm not that hungry. And it's such a wonderful way to live. I wouldn't trade that energy for any amount of carbohydrate you could try to give me. So I love the way you put that. Having you gone through that is how people are going to get that message. And so that's so cool that you notice that yourself.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. It just made sense to me when I read about that that your body will burn carbs, fat, protein in that order, and so so if you're eating a bunch of carbs, it's storing the fat, and so if you take the carbs out, once you go into, I think it's called ketosis or something like that.
That's right.
You're right. Your body's like, it stops looking for the carbs. It's like, all right, well, let's burn some of this fat. Yep. And I mean, I swear, dude, it just drips. The fat just dripped off my body, and like, just amazingly, fat. I mean, 6 months doesn't sound. I mean, 6 months is a long time when you're waiting for something for 6 months. But that was the other thing, is mindset. I didn't. I wasn't like looking for, okay, I'm 225 pounds. I want to be 155 tomorrow. I had to change my mindset and just say, look, this isn't a diet. This isn't like a diet I'm going to do for 2 weeks and then go back to my regular routine. I'm just changing my life. I'm just going to do this from here on out. And when I did that, 6 months passed by before I knew it. And I'm like, wow, man, I'm back down to high school weight, man. I'm 155. This is crazy.
It's amazing. And then just to call this out, people can lose weight that quickly by going on a really calorie restrictive diet, but they feel miserable and they lose not just fat, but also muscle mass and water weight and bone density. And then once they stop, they always regain the weight. And if you do it this way, you lose pretty much exclusively fat. You feel amazing. You're full all the time, so you don't need to be eating. And then sometimes I would see people gain, 3 pounds or 5 pounds once they stop, but for the most part, they wouldn't gain the weight back. So that's really amazing.
Well, in Zen, taking care of the body is really just as important as taking care of the mind. In fact, I think a lot of Zen practitioners would at least try to say that there isn't really as much of a distinction there. That humans sort of put that distinction of mind and body, label it and define it that way, but that the mind and body are one.
Agreed.
So looking at overall health in that manner, how important is keeping your mind sharp or focused or healthy to you in relation to your physical health?
Yeah, of course. Those two things go absolutely hand in hand. I agree 100% that it's all one. You can't improve the body and destroy the mind at the same time and call that an improvement in health. And they work both ways. And so if you are not eating the proper diet and your mental clarity is suffering and you have to be eating and snacking all day, well, you're not going to do the things that you need to do mentally to stay sharp. And if you're not doing those things to stay sharp, you're going to decline. And we notice mental disorders are as high as they've ever been, and they're not going the right direction, and neither is obesity, diabetes, and all these things that are really shutting off our personal access to what is our birthright, in my opinion, which is this flow of energy that's like sunshine. It shines all the time for anybody who wants it, and you can shun it if you want, but it's there for you. And part of accessing that energy is eating properly and feeling that energy in you. And then with the additional mental energy, you can have experiences, travel, talk to people, read a book, listen to an amazing podcast like yours. And now you're growing your brain at the same time. And it's you have the energy to do it. That it's why you couldn't trade any amount of crappy processed food for me to make that trade. So I think that's a really great point.
Yeah, I love that explanation about the energy. And I think that's one reason why you and I connect so well, is that we both have a zest for life. We're alive. And I think we both appreciate and are, grateful for that, and, celebrate every day for another day of being alive. That's awesome stuff, man.
That's awesome. I love that.
Well, tell me about a time when you were struggling physically, whether it was a specific workout or just a period in your life, and you pushed through. You got to the other side. You got over the wall, around the wall, under the wall. You got on the other side of it. Whatever it was that was holding you back, how did you push through?
I will go back to the time that I was racing bikes quite a bit, road bikes in particular. And I was doing what most endurance athletes were doing at the time, which is fueling my body with a lot of carbohydrates, you go out and ride and you can maybe go like 20 or 30 minutes, then your energy is starting to tank. So you need to have a gel or a bar, or you need to fill your water bottles with all kinds of different sugary products to help keep that energy up. And it was introduced to me, this concept, back in 2012, where if your body is burning the fat that's stored on your body, then you don't need to be consuming a lot of calories and you can still perform at a very high level. I'll always go back to that time as something that really shook me up and forced me to address that and change the paradigm. And it took a while of reducing carbohydrates and eating more fat and giving myself permission to be able to do that. There was definitely some longer term damage that needed to be repaired. My gut wasn't feeling very good. My energy was really poor. I was hungry all the time. I needed a nap every single day. And once I got past that hump and started to experience this greater sense of energy and mental clarity, that was really, it made the journey worth it. One thing that I'll tell people is, like, if you are in the United States and you want to take a trip to Bali, let's say, the trip itself really sucks. You're going to be at several airports. You're going to be flying for many hours in lines with other smelly people. And the travel itself is really rough. Once you get there, Bali's amazing and you can stay as long as you want, but you just have to get through that trip. Well, most people would say, yeah, I'll take that trip if I know what the destination is. If the destination is amazing, I'll do the trip, of course. And so that to me was, I guess, a comparison personally of what I had to go through and kind of push through, changing my mind and then changing the way I did things, and getting to the other end made the trip totally worth it.
That is a perfect analogy. And I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I've, travel has been a big part of my life, and yeah, it's rough getting to where you're going sometimes, but in the end, it is totally worth it.
Yep.
What's your daily routine? What do you do? What do you do on a regular day?
Yeah. So I will typically wake up around 6 a.m. I do coffee in the morning, and I will add just a little bit of fat to that coffee. So some people know, like, bulletproof coffee or butter coffee. I'll just take, black coffee, and I will put some MCT oil in, which is an oil that comes from coconuts. I will put just a little bit of butter in there, and I'll also put salt in my coffee, and I'll just blend that up, and that will be my kind of morning concoction. Then I go about my day. I see a few people. We have kept our circles really small with our new business, so we see people at a distance, or I'll train people virtually. Sometimes people will come to our new gym that we built in the basement, and we'll train them down there where we have really nice air filters and good airflow, and keep our distance down there as well. I'll train a few people a day. I will go on walks, walk around the neighborhood, or go on a bike ride or a paddleboard. And I just really enjoy the outside and enjoy this new life that we've had. We worked a heavy corporate job for a lot of years and worked very long hours in a really competitive sales environment. And 2020 has been such a weird dichotomy of something that's been so terrible, but also has given us this new reality of life. And boy, it's been amazing. And we, my wife and I, we hang out and we talk about our clients. We've been playing the game Sorry quite a bit lately. That's been really fun. And then we'll normally have our meal around 5 or 6 p.m. We're not like uber strict on anything. We just generally eat the foods that we really like. It doesn't need to be a ton of foods. We'll do burger patties or brats or, wings or whatever we feel like is good. And we keep it simple. And then we'll just kind of spend some time watching Netflix and binging a Christmas movie and go to bed around 9 or 10. That's a typical day. It's pretty enjoyable.
That's awesome. So Bethany, your wife, also is on board the same with the no carb or low carb lifestyle. Yeah, it's actually really worked out for her as well. She was on the other end where she had an eating disorder growing up, and so diet's been really hard for her, and she was eating a lot of what I would call like really inflammatory foods that were just not reacting in her gut very well. And once she started eating more proteins and fats and kept that pretty simple, all of that stuff went away, and she feels as good as she ever has and looks great and really enjoys it. And it's just not complicated. Eat once a day. Don't need to shop or prepare a bunch of food. It's great. That's awesome. The one sort of struggle I have here is that, this is Japan, so like rice is served with almost every meal.
Yep.
So it's a little tougher for me to totally avoid it, but I actually do, and my wife is very understanding, and she even goes without it sometimes. I don't ask her to. I respect her lifestyle choices, and I don't try to push what I'm doing on her. But yeah, I have a different circumstance here where like. Rice is everywhere here, but
sure.
Anyway, well, tell me about the business itself. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You and your wife started Boundless Body. How was that, like going out on your own?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been super fun, but it was pretty early on after the shutdown that we were on furlough, and I kind of shifted my studies from what I was normally studying, which was nutrition and exercise, and I started listening to scientists, virologists, to see what is this thing? What are we up against? And it was pretty clear early on that this was going to go much longer than people were willing to accept.
Yep.
People's behavior was not changing in a way that was going to slow the spread of the virus, and things were going to be at risk for closing back down. And so when we got called back in May, we said, we're sorry, we're going to go do our own thing. And we opened the company and had to kind of do it kicking and screaming and learn how to, get a LLC and how to build a website and do accounting and all that stuff. But it's interesting. You look back and think, wow, I know how to do all that stuff now, but it's just been little steps of learning and growing and adapting, and it's been an amazing journey and an amazing year. And we were able to keep a bunch of the people that worked with us before and found safe ways to train them in ways that were convenient for them. And it's been amazing. And it's opened up time for me to give back and do a podcast and talk with you. And it's been a great journey. And we're really fortunate that things worked out the way they did for us. And anybody can reach out through our website if you've got questions, if you want a free meal plan, if you want a free workout plan, just let us know. We're here to help, and we want to show people that there's an easy and simple way to get the results you want, and you can achieve it. You can do it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, when I visited the website, you have a tagline on the website, create your best life. And I love that because on zensammich.com, before you and I ever spoke, I have a similar tagline. It says, life happens, do it well. And so, I think that's what we're both about. I think that's cool, man.
Love that.
Well, you mentioned the podcast. Let's talk about that. How, when did you start and why?
We started in October, the first part of October. Podcasting for me has always been something that has taught me a lot. I haven't listened to, say, like music in my car for several years because that's a good opportunity for me to learn something, take something in. And podcasting is really unique because if you write a book, you capture that moment in time of what your thinking was when you wrote the book. But once the book is out, you may change your mind about something and want to revise something. In podcasting, you get to hear whoever you want and their current thoughts. What do they think about something right now? So it's been something that I've really enjoyed using to learn myself. And so I felt strongly as we started to open up a little bit more time that I wanted to interview the interesting people that I met. And so I've interviewed people that are Hall of Fame mascots. I've interviewed former professional basketball players. I interviewed the soccer coach you mentioned. I interviewed 2 weeks ago, gold medalist Derek Parra, who works at the Oval and taught me how to speed skate several years ago. But at the same time, I've also interviewed people like you, who I didn't even know you existed less than a week ago. Right. I got to interview a friend of mine who was placed on a makeshift COVID ward in New York City in March. And I've gotten to drive down 45 minutes south of my house and record an episode with my grandparents. And that's cool. If somebody listens, that's great. If they take something from it, that's great. We don't really care. We don't have sponsors. We're not going to monetize. But I got to hit record on a conversation with my 90-year-old grandparents where my grandpa openly wept as he read a poem that he wrote to my grandma 70 years ago. That moment is captured, and it's I'm so glad I got it.
That is awesome, man. We're speaking on this recording. This is my 1-year anniversary with my wife. So like that's hearing that your grandfather wrote a poem to your grandmother, like, because I wrote something for my wife. She's in another room. She can't hear me right now, but I wrote something I'm going to surprise her with later on today.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that.
So yeah, it's so cool that you just mentioned that about your grandfather. You also mentioned, I was going to bring up that you've interviewed some big names, man. Derek Para, as a gold medalist in speed skating, still holds the Olympic record speed skating for 1,500 meters.
That's right.
You've interviewed the soccer coach, Thomas, is it Rongen?
Yep.
How do you pronounce? Yeah, Rongen.
Yep.
Dutch Rongen. Okay. The Dutch, I listened to that episode last night, man. That dude is awesome. There's been a documentary made about that experience, and they're going to make a movie about it. You've had some big names, and dude, you started in October. I thought you've been going for like a year, but because I did see the badge. I think Buzzsprout is your host, and they give you a badge when you get to a certain milestone. Just this month, you already hit 6,000 downloads, man. That's incredible. That's very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
How do you do it? How do you get these guys? How do you get the audience, man? What are you doing? What's the magic?
The funny thing is, and I tell my guests this, I will say that our show is about health and fitness, but what it's really about is stories. I want to hear some amazing stories, and we'll tie it into health and fitness. That's pretty easy. Whether we talk about mindfulness, meditation, exercise, nutrition, we'll tie it in somehow to health and fitness. But what I want to capture is somebody's stories. And the funny thing is, a lot of those people that I've been fortunate enough to talk to are people that I've been fortunate enough to know in my life. And they are people that are in my contacts list. Derek Para, gold medalist, like home ice 2002. Like everybody around here knows Derek Para. I show up for this like learn how to speed skate class as a 30-year-old in 2014. And that basically means it's one dopey 30-year-old dude skating around with like 8-year-olds who are learning how to skate for the first time. Who's teaching the class? Derek Para. And I go, what? This guy, is this like a celebrity appearance? Nope, this is just what he does. And so getting to work with him for a few months, I got to be friends with him. And then when I wanted to record his show, I texted him. I'm like, hey, dude, when's a good time? And he responded, kind enough to respond, kind enough to make time for me. And I took my stuff over, and we sat in an office at a distance with masks, looking over onto the ice that he won gold medal in 2002, that he to this day works at and absolutely loves his job. I mean, you couldn't just full on goosebumps. You couldn't get a cooler conversation. And again, I've been fortunate enough that a lot of those people are people that I've known. They're people that have helped me. Some people I've emailed or sent a Facebook message to. I sent a tweet to Thomas Rongen and just said, hey man, like, would you have time? Would you be willing? And, some people will ignore you. Some people say, no, try back. I had one author say, I can't, but here's a copy of my last book. And then some unexpected people say yes. And yeah, love to.
Awesome.
Love to talk to you. Be great. Some like the best guest I have were doctors that I thought were untouchable. And I sent them a message and said, dude, I love your stuff. Could I have you on my show? And some of them said, Casey, I would love to be a guest on your show. Just like so crazy.
That's awesome, man.
It's awesome.
That is crazy. That's great. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just gotta step out there and just do it. Yep. And so I'm telling you, man, you sincerely are an inspiration to me. So I usually do a 5-minute Zen segment at the end of my show. And so
I love those. They're so good.
Yeah. Well, how we're going to do that today is, I want to go back to a word that you and I have discussed recently, and one that's been a topic on this show. That word is ikigai, or purpose in life. I like to define it as the reason for getting out of bed in the morning. So Casey, the 5-minute Zen for the folks listening. What is your ikigai? What's your reason for getting out of bed in the morning?
I would have to say my ikigai is helping people, whoever is willing, understand that they can change their life. And it's not as difficult as they think. And the results will happen sooner than they think if they just do it. And I would say my ikigai is knowing that I can work with somebody one-on-one or work with somebody virtually, or I can have a conversation and record it that could inspire somebody to, like we say on our website, create their best life. And that excites me so much and makes life so much fun. I've said my whole life, if you gave me $1 million, I'd be doing this tomorrow. I wouldn't change a thing.
Dude, that is so awesome. In the episode about ikigai, one of the components I talk about is, what, not only what are you good at and what do you love, but what can you give back to the world? And when you talked about just now about helping others, I think some aspect of that is essential to one's ikigai, and that's so cool, man. That was golden. Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. The podcast is Boundless Body Radio. It's on all the major platforms. The website is myboundlessbody.com. So where else can we find you? What do you have coming up? Who else you got on your show coming up? What have I missed? What have I left out?
No, that's great. So those are the best places to find us. You can go to my Facebook page. Casey Ryan Ruff is my name. You can go to the Boundless Body Facebook page. Feel free to message us. Like we said, we've got time and we're more than willing to help. And so if you have questions, don't be confused. Just reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure things out. If you want to work with us, we can discuss that longer term. But we want to help people, and those are great places that people can find us. We have some awesome guests lined up. I'm super excited. I've got 2 professional cyclists that are going to come on soon. I have somebody who wrote a book about fasting that I'm super excited to have a conversation with. I've got 1 or 2 people that I've already spoken with. We're going to have our second sessions. And the one I'm the most excited for, I'll even say her name. She wrote the book, The Big Fat Surprise, in 2014. Her name is Nina Teichels. She is a warrior when it comes to the low carb, high fat lifestyle. She's a journalist. She wrote an incredible book about the history of what happened and why we have nutritional guidelines that say we should be eating massive amounts of carbohydrates and we should avoid fat at all costs. She was one of the people that was so happy to be on the show and responsive, and I'm thrilled to do that interview. So lots of good stuff to come.
That's awesome, man. I will be listening.
Great.
Well, I feel inspired. I'm going to go work out now. So for the listeners, if you like the show, tell a friend, tell somebody, and tell them about Boundless Body Radio. Tell them about Zen Sammich podcast, and or give me your thoughts at zensammich@gmail.com. Join me next time when I talk about Ichigo Ichie, which is a Japanese concept of cherishing the unrepeatable nature of every moment or encounter in your life. Casey, thank you again. Man, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. And yeah, till next time, man.
Thank you, Mark. It's really been an honor. Always great to talk to you.